Hey guys, it's Belf from Kaiser Vanguard, and I'm here bringing you my premium Kagero deck profile. So the first question that you have to ask is, why play Kagero in the premium format? I will tell you why. I am a person who likes to play other games. I don't just play Vanguard. The most important thing in other games is interaction, and being able to stop your opponent from doing things. I am a very strong proponent of this in every game I play, which is why I naturally gravitated towards Premium Kagero, because it is the clan that has the most interaction. Its position in the meta is it isn't going to win a major, it isn't going to win a BCS out of nowhere. It's a meta call deck. If we're going to be facing a lot of later game loop decks, if we're going to be facing decks that just stop you from playing the game because they perform infinite loops, like with, say, the infinite Murakuma loop, if that becomes more popular, the loop involving, I believe it's I think it's the crit trigger in Bermuda Triangle with one of the on-hit ability cards, and there's also the loop involving Pale Moon. These, like the G-Guards in this deck, can stop those loops, so that you're able to actually interact with your opponent. It also is a very strong mid-rangey pressure deck. You have a reasonable grade 2 game. You aren't going to be out grade 2 gaming Luard or anything like that, but you can give it a fair option, and you do not mind taking first grade 3 because obviously you get your really strong G-Guardians out of the way by doing that. Anyway, onto the deck. The first card we play is 4 copies of Draconic Overlord the Great. This is your ideal primary ride target, because you want to be going onto this, because we are playing Neoflame, we're playing that package for a specific stride combo. This is also probably one of the best first grade 3s to go on in this clan. So you get your force marker, you're on 13k base, and then, like, even if you have to ride this first on first grade 3 turn, being able to get a Neoflame back for free it's a free +1, but it's nothing super crazy to write home about. Anyway, onto our actual win condition. We are on 3 copies of the Cross, not the Cross V. At the time of recording this, we are about a week out from its skill being revealed, so I'm still on 3 copies of the Old Legion one, and to facilitate this, 2 copies of V, the End. This is our win condition, because the interaction between the End and the Cross is that you may restand twice with this, and you do not lose any drives because it is the Legion mate rather than the Legion Master. So the idea is you can use this as stride fodder, you can use this like early as perfect guard fodder. I often actually call Conros to add this and just immediately put it in the drop zone to deck thin for 1 card. You don't mind riding this first, because you are going to end up riding the Cross anyway. You just need to find a way to Soul Blast it out, which is not super hard. We're only on 9 grade 3s in this. The reason why we are not playing like the normal Overlord from the first trial deck is it is a very strong rear guard, but at this current juncture, I prefer the plays that you can do with the Great as opposed to the plays that you can do with that vanilla Overlord on rear guard. Anyway, onto our grade 2s. We're on 4 copies of the staple Berserk Dragon. He is fabulous in every format that he's legal. This guy lets you get early draw power. It's early retire that is not GD locked, which is nice. He's a 13k attacker. He hits really good numbers. I am a big fan of this card. We could see this actually getting replaced by the new grade 2 in set 8, but I'm unsure on that. More testing is needed. Anyway, since we're also on 4 copies of the Great, we have to play 4 copies of Neoflame. You will discard this a lot to perfect guards. You will get rid of this a lot to any kind of skill that requires a discard effect, so say an Overlord restand, or say you're using this as cost for Conro. I use this a lot. So the main combo that you want to do with this is actually a combo with one of our strides. So you have this on rear guard because you rode the Great, you stride Dumjid, you then swing with Dumjid, give your Vanguard an extra crit with this guy's skill for Counterblast 2, and then you can refund that with Conro, and then if they perfect guard or G-guard, you get to do it again, which is really strong. Then to round out the grade 2s, I'm on 3 copies of Dragon Full Armored Buster. This is just a consistency option. I like this being a 13k attacker and a 13k defender. If your opponent does not have any rear guards, I mean, yes, they might damage deny you, but this deck can survive on 1 or 2 damage because you have a lot of counter charge. I'm not playing Dragon Armored Knight because I am not really a fan of that card. It's basically a vanilla, and I like cards that have potential skills rather than a slight amount of power boost on rear guard. It being 15 versus this being 13 usually hardly ever comes up. This does have a very expensive Soul Blast cost, but there are times when this is actually useful. Like I've had to ride a Neoflame, and the next turn ride a grade 3, call this, Soul Blast out the Neoflame, which is really useful. Anyway, onto grade 1s. I'm on 4 copies of Flame of Hope ammo. This is how we will be countercharging a lot of the time. This lets us essentially cycle it for free. Every Kagero deck that can play this will be playing this. You get a countercharge of this whenever you retire something, which, spoiler alert, in Kagero you do a lot. This is a 11k booster, which helps make magic numbers, because a lot of your attackers can then go to 24k, a lot of your attackers can then go to 21k. Being able to essentially cycle this card for any other card in your deck is really, really useful, because you can draw triggers with it. Because if you end up going past 4 cards in hand during the cross attempted kill turn, it's not very nice. So I use this to try and hard draw triggers when I don't need them. And for other grade 1s, I'm on 3 copies of Lizard General Conroe. This guy is here as our Overlord Searcher. I don't think this deck will be playing the grade 3 Searcher from the next set, because Conroe is just so useful. When he's placed on rearguard from hand, you reveal a grade 3, you search your deck for an Overlord, and then you discard a card. And then you can sack this guy, give your Overlord Vanguard, when it attacks, countercharge 2. This is our main countercharge. I think that this card is going to be a staple in premium Kagero lists until he's banned. But I don't think he's ever going to be banned because he's not broken. He's just good. And speaking of some things that are a little bit broken, against people who don't know what this card is, Lizard Soldier Belog is fantastic. This is the crux of my interaction argument. This card helps you beat loops, even if you don't have a heal trigger, as long as you're on GB1. So when this card is placed on Guardian Circle, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gains red text until the end of the battle that this unit was attacked. If the attack did not hit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards at rest and retire it. This card is fantastic against Luard, because they swing again. They're using Dagda to try and set it up. Like, they've gone into Ultima, they've swung with Dagda, made another column. You just retire the Dagda so that they can't restand that entire column and get some advantage. I really, really especially like this against decks that have key grade 1s or things behind the Vanguard you have to take care of. It does suck a little bit that this guy's 6k, but it means you can damage deny decks that you need to damage deny. Overall, this is a tech option. You could very easily play more of another, like most other grade 1s. I'm playing this over 2 extra copies of the grade 1 PG, but obviously your mileage may vary on that. One thing that is a bit irritating is that he is, alongside Conroe, a 5k guard. So your early game is hampered a little bit by this, but if that ever ends up coming up, this is a very easy switch to something like Sable as well. It's just another 10k shield. And then the last grade 1 we're on is 2 copies of Red Dive Griffin. Being able to punch things out of the Guardian Circle is fantastic. It's not a Die Kaiser, so it doesn't negate it. It doesn't negate perfect guards. It doesn't negate G-guards. But being able to knock a G-guard out of the circle and go, okay, you need to guard another 40k for this swing is really strong. Like, even rather than using this card skill, it's a fantastic mind game card, even though I mostly just guard with it. And the last grade 1 we're on is I'm actually on 2 of the grade 1 drop and draw PG. Being able to drop copies of the End and then put them back in your deck with Legion, being able to drop copies of Neoflame with this feels great, and hard riding this and soul blasting it out actually comes up with Dungeon. Then, trigger lineup. I am playing Smooth. 10 crits. Make sure that you play V crits where possible, and your premium collection crits. I will be replacing these with next year's Premium Collection crits when we get those in English. The Stride crits. There's not much else to say. They're just critical triggers. You want to play them. I'm on 2 draws for draw PGs because I am not the biggest fan of, like, when you hit this, it's nice early game. The only time where this is a problem is if you need to keep your hand low for the end. But other than that, there are certain things that say, oh, you can't guard with grade 1s, so you want to guard with this. And then we're on 4 heals. I play 2 V heals, 2 countercharge heals. You actually hardly ever use this for the countercharge. You rather use this for the soul charge, because this deck chugs through soul like nothing else, but we have plenty of countercharge, which is not really a problem. And the last card we are playing is the V starter, because you can't really, like, I don't think you have enough early game presence to warrant playing Conroe or something like that. You will also be able to get a quick shield off this when the trial decks come out in a few weeks. Anyway, marker discussion. This isn't me flexing, but I think you would rather go Force 2 over Force 1 a lot of the time. So, unless you get your opponent to 4 or 5 damage super early, you want to go Force 2. Because having a Force 2 restanding Vanguard 3 times is incredibly strong. Or being able to just put a Force 2 behind your Stride Vanguard is fantastic. You don't really care about actual numbers you can make, it's more quality of attacks with this pressure. But if need be, you can use Force 1 if you get your opponent down to a high amount of damage early, if you rush them, if you're against a deck that doesn't really care about counterblasts. So you can, because you can also double up on this power bonus when you go for your Stride turn, or for your Legion turn. But yeah, in general, go for Force 2, but if the situation calls for it, go for Force 1. Anyway, on to the strides. The first stride I want to talk about is Seabreeze. You only ever go into this if your hand has 2 copies of Belog in it that you need to turn on. That's literally it. This is largely flip fodder though, but if you need to turn on a Belog and you need to go and take that first stride, you can, because Belog only works on GB1. That's the only time you ever go into this. But it is a card that you, like, the game where you don't have this, and you're like, oh, I really need, I need to retire off this Belog right now, you're going to miss it. I'm on 3 copies of Flare General, Dungeon Valor. This is pretty much the only stride you go into on a consistent basis. You want to use this to force PGs out of your opponent's hand, or just bully them out of raw cards in hand, or just crit them to death with the great Neoflame and this combo. So you can have a 3 crit attack with your force marker that gets to restand. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, this isn't really a stride deck, but you want to try and, like, if situations call for it, you can stride. I'm on 3 copies of Ziegenberg. This third copy is supposed to be Zanburst when Zanburst comes out, but you can very easily replace this with a copy of Gilgal, a copy of Drachma, but I don't have access to those cards right now, and I don't think that they are super necessary. You use this if you G-Guard first, and then you just need something that can multi-attack if you're stuck on, say, like a raw copy of the Cross. But it's on, like, its main phase retire to set you up to a blaze state. It comes up occasionally when you need to spend soul instead of counterblast to retire things. And then around 2 copies of the Purge, when you have basically no cards in hand and your opponent's at 5 damage, you can stride this. If you know you can't kill them because they have, like, a few PGs, you can just hard stride this to draw 5 cards. That's pretty much all it's useful for. Its burn effect pretty much never comes up. The only time it ever came up was in a game where I put the end into my soul blasted it out, leading it back. That was the next turn. That was the only time it came up. You largely just have this for the games where you might need it. And then onto G-Guards. So we have the most important G-Guard in Kagero, Denial Griffin. The only reason you would want to play this deck in Premium. Denial Griffin stops so much of the metagame, it is actually insane. Until Zazan comes out. Then this deck profile is largely irrelevant unless Zazan gets banned. Then please come back to this deck profile. Zazan is very unhealthy for the game. So When you call this to Guardian Circle, you get to counterblast 1, choose your opponent's attacking rearguard, and just retire it. Not much else really to say. This stops your opponent from comboing, stops your opponent from restanding a bunch. This is fantastic against decks that restand. So looking at Nova Grappler, Aquaforce, and even I've used this a lot against people who are trying out the new Dimension Police Stride, and you can just retire things. You can get away with 2. I like 3, because there are games where you will need a third. Like, it's come up that the third is actually relevant. And the next G-Guard we're on is 1 copy of Defeat Flare. This is largely to nuke things in the back row and put Overlords back in your deck. I only really go into this when I'm about to deck out. I have used this in games where I've ended up damaging all 3 copies of the Cross and I've healed 1 out, where I just need to put the Cross into my deck, call a Conroe, hard search it, and then next turn go for a kill turn. Being able to wipe back rows is largely why you play this, though. Like, it's not something that you're going to do every game, but it does come up. When Absalam, this card is really good in certain matchups, like against... Like, this is an all-star against Gastille, because they suck in their own rear guards to restand NLK, and then this guy gets plus 50k shield. Although Gastille is a very hard matchup for you to win, unless you have access to other G-Guards. We're on 1 copy of this, Advanced Guard Dragon. It hardly ever comes up, but it's basically Denial Griffin that costs Soul and retires a grade 1. I use this a lot against Luard. I've used this a lot against Tachikaze. You could also use this, because it also G-flips a G-Guardian, to advance your G-Guard count if you want to try and go for like a first stride, second stride Drachma. But I'm not playing Drachma. But if you were, this card helps. And the last G-Guard run is Dismal. Simply put, you use this if you need to protect your Neoflame in the battle phase. Or a Conroe, to stop it from getting killed by any kind of skill. Because then you'd want to kill Conroe yourself to get the countercharge effect, or you'd want to keep Neoflame for the crit play. But other than that, this doesn't really come up. You do flip this up a lot. Anyway, that is my Kagero deck profile. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any kinds of suggestions for content that you'd like to see out of me, out of the other members of Kaiser, please leave them down there. And as always, have a nice day. Thank you.